We always want to start out with prayer. And so, Father God, in the name of Jesus, we just thank you and praise you on this day. We give you glory, we give you honor, and we give you praise. For you are worthy of all the glory and all the honor. Father, we thank you on this day for Women of Colors and time to have a conversation as we begin to move forward on this platform on today. Father, we ask that you will bless our country, oh Father God, our leaders, oh God. Bless all the members of Women of Colors and bless the leadership of Women of Colors as we move forward to bless our community. And so now, Father God, we just thank you and praise you. We ask that you would bless all of those that are grieving on today, that have lost loved ones, Father. We also ask, oh Father God, that you would continue to bless our country, the United States of America, and our democracy as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Lula, for that great prayer as normal. Listen, welcome to Time to Have a Conversation presented by Women of Colors. Tonight, our conversation, the topic will be concerning mental health. I'm Vicki Hill, and I am the Vice Chair of Women of Colors. And I have the distinct pleasure of these wonderful ladies that are sitting here on the panel who are going to be talking about mental health with me. We're just going to have a conversation, so I want everyone to join in on that conversation once we get started here. But I want to welcome you once again to Women of Colors, Time to Have a Conversation. We do this on a monthly basis, and we're always trying to get the topics that are relevant. And I'll tell you, Women of Colors has been known, to touch on the tough subjects, the things that we don't hear a whole lot about. And that's what we want to do, bring awareness to the community, to all the surrounding communities as well on all of these great topics. I'm going to start out by giving you a little bit of information about the ladies that are on the panel tonight. One of the ladies on the panel is Miss Lula Woodard. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lula, and then I'll move on to the next. Lula Woodard has resided in Saginaw, Michigan for 39 years. Long time, Lula. Relocating from her original home in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Her second home, Chicago, Illinois. All right, she has two amazing adult daughters, and she has great, amazing adult grandchildren and 4 fantastic great-grandchildren. How about that? She's a retired school teacher, a consultant, social worker, and an entrepreneur. Currently, Lula is an adjunct professor at Delta College here in Saginaw, Michigan, in the English division. Now, Lula has a degree. She has earned her bachelor's degree in special education from Chicago State University and an additional major in mental health and psychology from Chicago. Welcome, Lula. Then I'm going to tell you about Miss Vera Harrison. Vera Harrison is the Child Abuse Prevention Education Program Director at the CAM Council of the Great Lakes Bay region. She is a mother of 1 son and 3 grandchildren. She received a bachelor's degree in family life and education from Spring Arbor University. She enjoys volunteering in her community and interacting with people. She is highly respected and liked by those she works with and those she has educated. She has an extensive background in evidence-based parent program facilitation and oversight. She has worked at the CAN Council for 14 years and on the Women of Colors Prevention Team for 2 years. Welcome, Vera. And then we have one more person, which is Miss Gleisha Wright Tatum. Gleisha Wright Tatum is a resident of Saginaw, Michigan, by way of Greensboro, North Carolina. She is a wife and mother of 2 amazing children. She holds a bachelor's of arts in theater from Saginaw Valley State University. Her focus in theater is mental health and healing through the arts. She's known for her playwriting, costuming, and directing. Gleisha is an artist. Her murals and paintings can be seen throughout the city of Saginaw, Michigan, and the Sacramento, California area, as well as children's books illustrations. Gleisha serves the youth of Saginaw as a theater and program coordinator for First Ward Community Center in Saginaw, performing for the SVSU BATS program. Gleisha was invited to the stage to do the stage's first Black nativity for the holiday in the heart of the city in 2019. Welcome, Gleisha. Welcome, ladies. It is so wonderful to have you on the panel tonight. As I stated, our topic tonight is going to deal with mental health. Now, we know that there's a lot going on in the city of Saginaw, around the city, in different states, and a lot of it has got to do with mental health. So we're going to touch in on that subject tonight and just talk a little bit about it. I'm just going to chime in on each one of you and ask a few questions, and you can be as transparent, as honest as you possibly can. But we're going to talk about mental health tonight. You know, as I was looking on the news I get up and watch the news every single morning, actually. You know, my first thing in the morning is a cup of coffee and Good Morning America. And, you know, that's what I do on a daily basis. So a lot of times I'm watching the news and you see all the different things that are happening around our world, and it comes down to our mental health. So I want to ask you, each one of you, if you can chime in on some of the mental health issues that you've been hearing about lately, or you've seen in the news, or you've experienced yourself. I'll start with you, Lula.
Okay, we can start with me. I think I've experienced a great deal of depression. It's huge. Not only it's just huge, and also substance use is huge, and anxiety is huge. I've experienced all three of those, and it is as I continue to look at it and coming out from that. Sometimes it's still, truth be told, we still experience depression. And it hasn't been long ago that I found myself being in that space, but having dealt with it through the years, and when it came up, I know when it pops up, oh, this is where I am. I'm able to recognize it better now. I'm able to deal with it better now than I did when it first started happening, because I had no name for it at that time. It was just something that's just acting, you just didn't feel yourself, I wasn't getting up in the morning. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the go to, it was just a different person. And so now to look at that, it is truly now has become a health issue. It's and to be looked upon differently than what it has been looked upon in years past, as this stigma, which still occurs. It still do, but years ago, people didn't talk about it at all. It was taboo. Today it's not really taboo like it used to be.
Absolutely. And when you talk about depression, and like you said, for a long time it was taboo. It was nobody talked about it. It was kind of like swept under the rug. It was kind of like, how they used to say, the older adults would always say, what happens in the house stays in the house. You don't talk about it to anybody. You don't tell people what's going on. Our business is our business, and it's to stay in the house. But, and that's where, I find that when I talk to people, when they talk about depression, a lot of times I'll say, well, what does that look like? But sometimes you cannot tell what that looks like. The obvious signs might be, okay, maybe they can't function. They can't get out of bed. They stop eating. Their desires to do anything has stopped. They don't want to go anywhere. Those kind of things become a little bit obvious to you. But what about the people where it's not obvious? And for example, I was sitting at my job one day and I was talking about this subject, and someone walked in and I was talking to that person, and I come to find out they began to tell me how depressed they were. They were clinically depressed. I was like floored because I saw no signs. I didn't see anything that was going in an abnormal way. and I worked with this person. So sometimes you can see the signs, sometimes you can't see the signs. And it's sometimes it becomes very hard, so like I said, I was floored. I had no idea that this person was going through the different things that they were going through. And we talked all the time. How many of us know people like that? We put up that mask. It's like going to a masquerade ball. You put on the mask and you only reveal it at the certain hour of the night, right? When you're at a masquerade party. Well, it's kind of like that. They put on these masks and we don't know what's behind the mask until that person let that mask fall down. Then we find out all the different things that are happening in that person's life, that they've been in this depressed state, right? So, like you said, you were going through so many different ways of being depressed. You didn't want to move. You didn't want to get up. You didn't want to do this or that. You didn't want to go anywhere. And so tell me, can you tell me what got you there, or do you know, and how you manage to work through this?
Well, in the beginning, it was deaths in my family, parents, grandparents, siblings, friends, and I think the last time, well, I won't say the last time because it's happened probably last year. A very good friend of mine passed away, but I dealt with the depression differently that I did with the parents, the grandparents, and the siblings. And it's like each time it's different. But what really floored me was when one of my sisters passed away. It was just, and I had not even recognized that I was depressed. I was in it. And I was in it like for a week or so. And then I woke up one morning and it was like, oh no, you can't do this. You gotta go. I started talking to myself and I'm going like, you gotta get up. You gotta get moving. This is not. And so I found myself talking to me, because I do talk to myself. Yeah, I do talk to myself. Because just think, you can talk yourself into and out of anything. So I was able to talk myself into coming out of the depression that I had been into for like 2 weeks. I didn't even know that I was there. And I ended up gaining 10 pounds behind that. And so being able to, being spiritual, and sometimes that does not work. Being real, I know scriptures, I know prayer, I know all of that, but sometimes that is not where I am, because I live in a body that's spiritual as well as physical. And sometimes the physical take over the spirit. And I have to deal with that. And so, yeah, it was that day. It was like, oh my, I can't do this. I got to get up. I got to move. I got to do. And so I was able to do that. And so far moving along, I've learned that when I begin to feel some kind of way that's different from my norm, because usually I'm an upbeat person. But when I'm starting to go down, hey, something is happening. So I need to take a look at me and what that is all about.
So you mean, all right, so I heard what you said. You said just like you're a spiritual person, you know your Bible, you read your scriptures. So by me telling you, girl, go pray about it, it'll be all right, that didn't work for you? It didn't bring you out of your depression and make you want to, do? So
I have to.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I did get to that point where I could do that, but I wasn't there when I was in it, because nothing was working. I was deep down in it. And in order to bring myself up out of it, I had to finally say, okay, enough is enough of this. And then what do? Then now I can say some scripture. Then I can begin to build myself up. And then now I can break out and come out of it.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I'm going to pose that same question to Vera.
Well, I guess we want to talk about mental health and Vera. You said something that really struck home when you said about the mask. I wore a mask for quite a while. I would do, as Lula, get in those deep depressions, isolate myself. And I would isolate myself to the extent because I don't know. I think I was a functioning depressed person. I went to work every day. I had responsibilities, and I didn't have anyone to take care of me. As a single woman, and I needed to pay the bills, so I would go to work and I would wear that mask, and that made it even worse. When I came home, I was just mentally drained from keeping that front on all day. I remember some days just sitting in my garage crying because I didn't want to go in the house and nobody see how depressed I was or what I was going through. So you hid it, and I did it for a long time. I mean, a very long time. And when you say mental health, that stigma was always there. I would just be like, no, not me, not Vera. I'm not this person. You say mental health, I'm not. You see people in, maybe walking the streets or doing crimes and things. That wasn't me, but deep down I knew it was some mental things going on. It got to a point where I would go to work and I would just isolate in the house. I always say, and I'll give a shout out to my friend Charlene Drain. She would not let it be. I remember her banging on my door one day, open the door, because I just wouldn't talk. I wouldn't answer the phone. It was go to work, immediately come home and shut myself in the house. And she just wouldn't let it be, whether she knew I was depressed or what I was going through. I don't know. It was just something we never talked about, but she never let me stay in the funk. She would definitely be there and pull me out. And and every day I thank her for that, because she didn't let it get to where as bad as it could have got. So yeah, I wore a mask. And sometimes I say, as Luda say, you go through your bouts, and I still wear that mask sometimes. You just, life can get hard, and you try to function through it, but that depression is big. Anxiety too, where I couldn't sleep. And I'd be like, oh, it's insomnia. I know what it is. You be in denial yourself, but just going into work off of 1 or 2 hours sleep. I began to drink a lot. And part of that was so I would go to sleep. That was my way of coping. I self-medicated myself. I would drink and I would just knock out that way. It's
Wow.
not, yeah, it's definitely not the way to go, but it was what I did, how I coped.
Absolutely. And you know what? And I find this to be true. And I'll ask you, Gleisha. I find that at times in life, we all wear a mask. We all put up that mask, whether we want to admit it or not. We all wear a mask. As Vera was saying, she was the provider of her home. She had to go to work. So whether you wanted to or not, the bills had to be paid and somebody had to pay them. So she had to go to work. She had to function. So a lot of times I find that we all are that way at times in our lives. We're functioning at all times. We're trying our best. Am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd like to say that I think there's so many negatives that happened during COVID.
Oh yeah.
I consider one of the greatest blessings of COVID to be able to talk to yourself and nobody else know it. Baby, coming out of Walmart many a day with my mask on and happy about it. Not happy for COVID, don't get me wrong, but there were times that I had a mask on in the store and wherever I had to go. And depending on what I was feeling at the time, I found myself talking it out. So I think that's some really good self-therapy. There's so much I could say about what Vera and Lula have both said. I have been both a single mom, a single married mom, and a married mom. And that's because I have experienced different levels of relationship where you feel a person is there with you, for you, helping raise the kids, or someone who's physically not in the house at all. There's a lot of different roller coaster rides you go on as a mom and as a provider when you're in that role. And it gets hard. It gets really hard. I think one thing, and I've sat in my car and had those same days, Vera, where I didn't want to go in the house because I had a little one. Sydney was always old enough to pick up on it, but I had a little one who felt everything it seemed like that I was feeling, and I didn't want him to sense when mom was having a hard day or whatnot, so I would keep it. And then I got to a place where I would share certain things with my children because I wanted them to understand humanity, the way to work through things, that mom is not picture perfect, that there are days that I have a hard time. What I refused to do was to burden them with it, but I would try to explain some things. When my son would say, "Mom, are you okay?" And I knew he was picking up on things. And I finally got to a place I said, well, no. I said, right now, I'm not okay, but I'm going to be okay. I said, because I'm not going to let this cause me to, and then I would explain little things, what I thought he could handle, at that age. But one thing that depression teaches you, in my opinion, having gone through it and gone through, various things in life over death, lost my mom 6 years ago recently. In fact, and I just realized this sitting on this call, is that tomorrow will be 6 years that was the day of her homegoing, of her funeral. Would be tomorrow. It was the day before my birthday that we funeralized my mom. And so it'll be 6 years tomorrow that we said officially goodbye to her with our family and friends around us. So I'm able to say that today in a way that I couldn't have said 6 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And so it's a process, healing is a process. But at the same time, having gone through the loss and the depression that can come with it and so forth, what it's helped me to understand is that we have to be very careful how we handle people. Lady Vicky, what you said about your coworker, that you were floored. And I know we all know this, but I'm going to just repeat this for those who may not have come to this understanding yet. You deal with people, but you don't know how close to the edge they are. You don't know
Absolutely.
what's going on with them. We judge so quickly.
Absolutely.
Who is together and who is not, and we size up their situation for that we know of them, and we try to I want to see how I would like to say this. So I want to be careful. I don't want to be judgmental in talking about being judgmental, but we a lot of times take for granted that everybody's okay.
Yeah.
So when someone offends us, we assume it's because it's something that they either don't like about us, or what's your issue, or what's your problem. Even if they cut you off on the freeway, we all know how that can go. You never know what kind of day somebody just had. You don't know what news they just got. You don't know what's happening with their children. You don't know who has hurt them or who has abused them. The woman who's running out of a house that's just been abused, and you see her riding up the street. You think she's driving erratic, and maybe she is, but there may be a reason behind it. Now, we know there are a lot of things in life that there's not a lot of that reason. People just, do what they do. But there oftentimes is. And I think for me, when I experienced some of the negative things in life and some of the hardships and the burdens, it taught me, or it's teaching me, to be more sensitive, to understand. And you can't always give people the benefit of the doubt, but I really do try. Because when I'm encountering someone, I say it to my children, and they'll tell you, I'll give somebody, and a girlfriend of mine, Deborah, sweetheart, Deborah, I love Deborah. She is a person that when she goes to a restaurant, if she gets bad service, if they're maybe having a bad day, but they're not serving her to the level that she thinks, instead of not giving a tip, sometimes she'll give extra. And I know other people that have shared that with me. And your first thought is, excuse me, extra. Just got my water. I had to wait for 40 minutes for my chicken or whatever it is. But in the process of it, you don't know how your kindness, and I'm not always good at this. I'm not going to pretend that I'm just, this is what I do and you all follow me. No. I'm saying I've learned to be kind in spite of, because you don't know what's happening. And that one act of kindness can break something for a person, can cause them to melt, can cause them to open up to you, because everybody else has treated me the way I treated them, but you're the one person who didn't. And you never know. So that, to me, I think in the world we live in, it's hard to find safe places. And when you can be a safe place for somebody, I think you should try, because you don't know, you may be the only safe place that person has in that whole week, in that whole month, in that whole year. And you offering a listening ear. And it's hard because we ask about how they're doing. We're hoping for that pat answer. I'm fine. How you doing? We don't stick around for, girl. When you hear that, you start finding stuff to do. You find your purse. You ever been in church and at the end of the service, you just come up on somebody, hey, how you been? I've been thinking about you. Girl, I know why you had me on your mind, because honey, and when you hear all that, you think, oh God, I just want to to say hey to you. I didn't want all this. Didn't you hear that the preacher said that you good now? But they will follow you to your car, talking with you about what they've been through and what's going on with them. But I think that if we do listen sometimes and we allow ourselves to be that safe place, and I think that we'll find ourselves healing each other. I think that healing can take place even more beyond the message, beyond the scripture. And I'll say this, and then I'll be done. But Miss Lula said earlier about the scriptures. There have been times I didn't want to hear, "This dost thou nothing." I didn't want to hear anything. And I've been taught the Bible all my life. I know the scriptures. Girl, you can do all things. I'll stop them. So I can take the words out their mouth before they say anything else. Say, I don't want to hear it. Just give me a minute. Just let me be here. But I know that the Lord said something to me years ago. He said, how can I save you if you won't be you? You want to be all of this and all that, but you have to be you. And then let me work with you, the real you, not the you that's cute and sit up and try to be this. Just you, with all your good, bad, and ugly. And I said, okay. And it's difficult to take the mask off. But I think when we ask people to take the mask off, we have to be prepared to be a safe place for them to show us their real self without the expectation that you're what I was hoping you would be. And then I can still accept you and love you for who I see you really are. And I think that's really a really strong thing to consider, because we're quick to say, we're not here. We have to say that here because it's the truth. But people are quick to say, well, you can't be wearing a mask. But are you a safe place for somebody to take their mask off? Are they wearing it around you specifically because they don't feel safe? And I think that's what I think I take on for myself to do better at of being a safe place.
That was good, Gleisha. I like that. I really do. And you're right. We assume a lot of things about a lot of people that we see on a daily basis. And like you say, we look at a person and we think, oh, they got it all together. They got this, they've got that. They're really coming up in life, as people would say. But we don't know what that person is going through. We don't know what that person has gone through. We don't know how they've gotten to the point as to where they are right now. And you're so right. We could be that safe haven for that person, or we could be that breaking point for that person. You ever talk to a person? I remember when I received the Stellar Award in 2010 at the Grand Ole Opry. And I remember standing up on that stage, and I remember the person that was giving me that award said, you have been the voice for so many people. You have been standing in the gap. There are people that have been listening who has been on that very edge, ready to jump off. But because of the words you say and because of the music you play, you've pulled them back some. We've been there for people. You never know where that person is in life until you actually talk to that person, and you actually not just talk, but listen. Hear what that person actually has to say. Let them pour their heart out to you. Find that time to sit and to listen to that person, because you just might be saving that person's life, right? You might just be saving that person's life. You might just be they may just be at the very end of that rope, and that rope might not be very long. But you might be the person that's pulling that rope and pulling them right back on in. So you're right. We have to be careful. And I love the conversation that you say we have with ourselves. Oh, yeah, that's intelligent conversation. That's the way I look at it. I talk to myself, too. Yeah, absolutely. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to me. I'm talking to me. That's intelligent conversation. Nothing wrong with it. It is very good therapy. It is. But I want to talk more about this depression. And I'm going to go as far as to say, okay, when we started out in this pandemic, everything got shut down. We couldn't go anywhere. We had to stay at home. If you went out to get your groceries, went to work, and you were back home, you didn't dare hang out and go any other places, because the pandemic was real and thriving, really thriving at that time in our lives. So there were a lot of things that took place. And a lot of that played a big part in our mental health, in our mental conditions. There were people who could not make it through this. There were people who found themselves in mental health crisis, right? And I know that each one of you know or have heard of some people that were going through these things as well. So people actually had to find a different way to cope, a different way of life, a different way of doing things. You guys agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
And what has been, what's your thought on that? Because people were going through a lot. You guys had to stay home just like we did. It was hard. I'm gonna say for myself, I'm a person that I'm a morning person. So I'm up no matter what at 6 a.m, even when I don't have to go to work. I'm a morning person, but I like to go and I like to do, but I couldn't do that. I was here in the house. If I wasn't in the house, I was at my job, back home, at the grocery store, back home. I didn't go visit my daughter. She didn't come over here. So I'm here all by myself. So I found that I spent a lot of time out in my yard doing things. I learned how to do flowers. I learned how to take care of the flowers, how to make sure they're properly watered, all of that stuff to keep the mental state healthy. I learned how to do more things around the house to keep my mind active and I wouldn't be falling into a state of depression, because a lot of people fell into that state of depression. We found a lot of divorce that happened in the middle of the big COVID pandemic that was going on, when it was really, really huge at that time, because people could not cope with each other.
Mm-hmm. It was really huge, especially for those of us that already dealt with some forms of depression and anxiety and everything. And we were taking off work, one day, just like everybody else. We sitting in the office, and our CEO said, pack up your stuff. We're going home for a couple of weeks. We're not going to be able to work. We're going to work from home. None of us thought it would be 2 years. And during the course of that 2 years, we definitely, if you didn't know what was going on with your mental, then you fell into that deep depression. There were times before I started doing, like you say, finding things to occupy my time, that I would get depressed. I would talk to my friend on the phone and I would tell her, this is hard. I would ride around in my car, but I couldn't stop anywhere. I couldn't go see my mother. I couldn't, I didn't even want to go in the grocery store. We were getting stuff delivered. So it was such a long time in that. And although I had tried to isolate myself when I got depressed, this was totally different. I was being forced here by society, by the world, of what was going on in the world. And it was really hard. But I did what I did find myself doing, was doing things like you said. I'm doing adult coloring books. I painted these pictures all on my wall, where I knew I was Picasso, but I was painting. I was just doing all kind of things, to occupy my mind, because they said mind is a terrible thing to waste. And it felt like I was just, I could, like Lula mentioned before, when you get in there, you could feel yourself getting there. And, I do have a friend that I would talk to, and he would kind of help me get through it, but it was hard. It was definitely hard. And I had pity for people who didn't, have a support system or, find ways to cope during this time, during that time. And I pray every day that we don't go back to that, because, I don't know if I could cope with it, being isolated like that again. It definitely was really bad.
It was very hard. It was really hard for people to cope with that mentally.
Yes.
So, like I said, there were marriages that fell apart. There were relationships that fell apart. You didn't see your family. I'm going to go as far as to say, at that time, in the height of the pandemic, we were losing loved ones. We were losing friends. We were not able to funeralize those people in the proper way. We weren't even allowed to go to the funeral homes. Remember, it was down to 10 people in a funeral home?
Yes.
Less than 25 for sure. You could not go there. So how did people deal with that? How do you deal with, your loved one dying in a hospital all alone, and you can't even go up and talk to that person?
Yeah. And I know that was hard, and I even go, Vicky, I had lost my father a year before the pandemic. And so, and some people, people grieve differently. And I definitely was still in the grieving stage, and to be stuck in the house while I'm still grieving the loss of my father, it made it twice as bad. And you found yourself thinking, I remember one time he came and actually visited me, and that was like the happiest day of my life, because I was just like, I knew he was okay, and that gave me some rest. But just having to still grieve him while going through that pandemic and dealing with the depression of the pandemic and the depression of losing him, it was hard. But I used to say, could my father have survived the pandemic? Was he God who, it was his time before we got to the pandemic? Because I don't know if he could have survived that, and I thought about, what if he was in a hospital during the pandemic, and he was, as you said, he took his last breath without his family there because of the pandemic. My mind was going everywhere, as I thought about that, and again, was still grieving, so it was a bad time.
It was very hard. It was very hard to have relatives in the hospital and you're not able to go and see them, not able to go and sit at their funeral and, funeralize them in the proper way. It was tough. We were already going through so much mentally, trying to deal with the pandemic, and to have that layer on top of it made it that much worse. So therefore, a lot of people did find themselves in a deep depression, right?
Yep.
You ladies have any other thoughts on that, Lula and Glacia?
I don't know. Just for me, I did, as you said, I'm not from Saginaw. So if anything happens in my family, I have to leave the state of Michigan. And it did. One of my cousins that we grew up together, and he had COVID. I had several family, but he had COVID and I couldn't go to Chicago. I mean, we grew up together, that was, we was ace coon boons, but I couldn't go because we were in this pandemic. And yeah, it hurt that I couldn't go. So I shedded tears, and I talked to family. And, one of the things I'm grateful for is that we have a family Facebook page that we reach out and let everybody know. And then the first Saturday of every month we have a prayer call with our family, and so that really helped us as we were grieving and going through the process, because a lot of us just couldn't go. And then, like you said, it's so many of us that we couldn't fit anyway. And then they had, the numbers were down to like 25 that could go, and so most of them was his siblings, because he comes from a big family. And so it was just devastating to not be able to visit, So for me, what I did, I have a great tribe. I call them a set of friends that we talked, and I read a lot. I like to read, and that helped me a lot. I don't mind being by myself, because I grew up as a loner. But so I was pretty much, I went through the depression, but it was totally different from anything that I'd ever been through before, because I had some skills and some things that I could apply to get me through it, and to acknowledge it. You got to acknowledge it. This is where you are, because if you can't acknowledge it, and being in denial, that doesn't help at all. And so acknowledging, this is what I'm feeling, this is where I'm at, and to be able to reach out and have that support group. And I have a great support group, and I'm so grateful for my support group.
That's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about, because Glacia, I want to talk to you about something else, but I'm going to hold it for right now. But let's talk about the stigmatism when it comes to depression, when it comes to mental illness. There are a lot of stigmatisms on this. And I think maybe that kind of keeps people from actually seeking the help that they may need, is because, people put all these different labels on you. They label you. If you go see a counselor, you got to be crazy, but that's not it. You're trying to find some help for your mental state. Am I right? So what stigmatisms have you guys heard that has been put on people?
You talk about stigma, Vicky. I think that's why I wore my mask so long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm Vera Harrison, I'm in the community. I'm a community person. I volunteer. I do. How could I actually have a mental things going on? I taught a class. I was trained in youth mental health first aid, and so I taught this class for Saginaw Community Mental Health. And I think partially the reason I taught it because I was trying to fix myself in the process. I learned all this stuff because there was no way I can go to a counselor. And I know I sit at the table with these people at meetings on a daily basis. What are they going to think of me? It was just so much that would go into my head where there was no way I could go get help. And it's bad that stigma is around, especially in the Black community. You didn't go talk to nobody. You deal with your issues and you moved on. You may be able to talk to your mother or father, but you ain't gonna bring that to them too often because you need to figure this mess out and get on with your life.
Right.
And it's so bad. I'm so glad as we move forward, you see the change. Lula kind of talked about that a little bit back in the day. It was like taboo. It was just no. We don't have mental issues. Now it's so open. I'm so glad that our youth are so open with this type of thing. Our kids talk about it. They say if it's an issue, and I'm glad. They go to their parents and be like, I need to go talk to someone. I wish I would have years ago went and talked to someone to help me get through it. It would have stopped so many things, all the destructive behaviors I had, the using the substances to get through and cope. If I would have just went and spoke with somebody to help me work through these issues and figure it out, so many things could have been different in my life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vera. I appreciate that. And you're right. How do you let people know that I'm having a mental crisis right now? Like you say, how do I sit in front of my coworkers or, people in the community who know what I do? And now here I am, I'm having a mental crisis and I need to go see someone for my mental state, which was the right thing to do, is to go find the counseling. But we had to keep that mask up. I could only let you see a little bit. You can't see much. I can't let you in. And this is the problem. We're not letting people in. We're hiding. And you only see a little bit of us in here. But behind that mask is a whole different person that is broken, whose spirit is broken, whose mind is broken, who's falling apart. And I'm afraid to talk to anybody about it. I'm afraid to let you know what's happening with me. So therefore, you can't even advise me. You need to go and get some help.
Right.
Because the mask is still up there, right? I'm not letting you in. You can only come so far now. Fist bump. That's as close as you're gonna get to me. You can't get any closer to me now. I gotta keep you away, because if I don't keep you away, you're gonna find out that I'm broken, that something's wrong. Alicia, I see that your mic is unmuted. Do you want to say something?
Oh, I'm enjoying what you're saying because it's just ministering to me. I think there are a couple things that I'm getting from what Vera's saying, what you're saying. One is bombs are built in isolation. People take their own lives in isolation. People abuse their children in isolation. People come to know themselves better in isolation. I think that one thing you said, and you got to it at the end, that I was thinking the whole time you were talking, is fear. Mm-hmm. Fear has been used against us so much in so many ways that we're afraid to let somebody in. The word trust has become a curse word in some people's hearts and minds. Yeah. Why in the world would I trust somebody? I've been hurt. I told her what was happening, and this is what she did. I told him how I felt, and this is how he showed he didn't care. We have to learn, and I'm saying this to myself first, we must realize that there's somebody that we have to take a chance on and trust, because our help is on the other side of that trust. And I want to talk a little bit about pastors. I know that I have a special heart for a special heart. I don't know, special something in my heart for pastors. And in the Black community, we know that the pastor traditionally, historically, has been like family, has been the person that comes to do the wedding and comes to do the funeral.
Right.
And not everybody has that. I'm not going to make that assumption. I'm certainly not speaking for all Black people everywhere. But in my experience and that of many, many others that I know of, the church is home away from home. It's where you go to lay down your burdens. That's where you go to find your help. That's where you go to find solace. That's where you go to holler it out, depending on what kind of denomination you're in. Sometimes you can go holler it out, whatever the case. But then we put well, before I go there, I'm going to say this very quickly. We need to get off Facebook. Facebook is a mess because we have the most perfect life. I'm not saying anything that no one has ever said. We get on Facebook and I guess I'm getting a keener discernment for Facebook. Sometimes you can see people are not happy, but they will not let you know that. I am certainly guilty of broadcasting when my baby does something I'm proud of, because I'm proud of her. I'm proud of my son, whatever. But it's never to say, and so therefore we have it together. And so therefore we have no problems. It's just saying, this is what she did. I'm proud of her. Thank God something stuck. And this is what she's doing. I'm so happy she's got some good foundation. And I'm happy for where she's growing to and what she's doing and opportunities. But it is never to give the impression that we have it all together. It's to say that when you put those things on Facebook and we believe them, that's the issue. We believe lies. We believe that Pookie and them are happy. Mm-hmm. Now, if there was no Facebook, you go to the family reunion, Pookie and them ain't happy. We know that. We know what happened in the kitchen. We know what happened under the tent. We know what happened by the fish fry. We know what happened when they were churning the homemade ice cream. I'm just saying, we know that Grandpa Jones is mean. We understand. But when we have this Facebook, so we selfieing ourselves half to death with Grandpa Jones, his mean self. But for that 0.2 seconds, he smiles. So we tell the world that me and Grandpa's cool. Me and Grandpa got this situation going on. We good. Our family is happy. We got to stop doing that. And it doesn't mean we need to stop posting things. I don't mean to say that. I just mean it's helpful for us to counteract that or to balance that with these kind of conversations, because the fear is, and I don't know about you ladies, but the fear has been for me, and I don't I want to be careful how I say it. I guess I don't care like I used to. I don't know if that's nice to say, but I'm at a point in my life where my mental health is my business. It is for me to work on it. It is for me to find the help. And if that's a problem for you, then I'm sorry for you, not for me. Because what you think about me is not my business. How you feel about me, it's not my business. So whatever it is you're thinking or feeling or saying, we're always casting down words that are spoken against us that we don't hear. I do that all the time. A pastor of mine many years ago said that to me. He said, I cast down people's words that I don't even hear to keep it from reaching me, to keep it from the negativity from surrounding me. So that's always a good thing to do. But we have to not believe the lie that we see. You used to be able to go in somebody's house and you could feel whether or not they were doing well. Are the relationships good? Do they pray in this house? Do they have companionship that's working? Do they have a good spirit in their house? You can walk in some people's house and you don't even want to go further. And you can walk in other people's house and you want to move in. You're like, let me find but what I want to get back to pastors is that it's considered disgraceful or shameful in some way to ask for help. And I think that we as a culture of people, and this is just for good measure, tossing this in, we have to give people a break. We have to allow our leaders to have weaknesses and to be human. We hold them to some high standard, because if they can live it and they can be all of this and that, then we can live raggedy. We can do what we want to do. As long as somebody's holding up the bloodstained banner. And I think we have to come away from that and allow them to be human and to have weaknesses. I wanted to say that because we don't allow them that. And so everybody has to find their somebody to confide in and to talk to. And I think that that's, I would say as a culture of people, but even as a nation of people, as a world of people, if we cut each other some slack sometime, I think some of that fear would come down. If you don't make me feel like I have to measure up to your standard, to your way, to your, I mean, being confident is one thing. But when you give up, you all have all met this person. And I feel safe saying this because no one on this call has ever made me feel this way. And I've interacted with all three of you. But if you ever entered into a conversation or a place with people, male, female, or whatnot, typically women, I will say, I'm not gender biased at all, but I will say, we can get around women and we judge each other very harshly. Mm-hmm. When a woman looks at another woman, we size you up so fast, your shoes, your hair, the way your dress is fitting. She knows she shouldn't have come out the house looking, I don't know why somebody didn't tell her. Or we'll say, you all know what's in the She thinks she's something. We size each other up. And I think that we've done that for generations. But my thing is that we have to make each other feel, again, I go back to what I said before, safe. And if you've ever been in a place where you talk with women and it's an air about them, that people can make you feel like you can never measure up, or they can make you feel like you're with me. You ever seen a pretty girl that had a good attitude and was about encouraging other people? That's beauty. To me, that's beauty. You can be gorgeous and hateful. And may I say the word stank? Can I say stank online?
Say stank.
And you are ugly. You can have hair down to your thighs and eyelashes as they wear them now. Y'all know we wait before we ever get there now. We doing this before we ever get to you. We just, hey. So we got that going on now. You can look all like and be gorgeous to somebody, but your spirit is jacked up. The way you treat people is horrible. Or you cannot look traditionally beautiful as the world will tell you, but your spirit is gorgeous. Your spirit is open and people can come in and out of conversation with you and feel like they have talked to somebody and they feel better. If we did more of that, because COVID was hard. I almost lost my husband. 5 days he was sick with his hard head. Yes, I said it online. Because he felt he could handle everything. Taking some NyQuil. COVID looked at that NyQuil and said, ate the NyQuil up and spit it out. 5 days. I've came very close to leaving here. It made me appreciate life in general. But I think that if we got anything from COVID, including the depression and the grief, we should take something from it that says it's time for us to treat each other as equals and the same. Because COVID didn't have any respect to person. You could have been a bishop. You could have been a homeless person. You could have been a state representative. You could have been any and everybody or anybody at all. And COVID did not care.
Absolutely.
We almost lost our pastor. So all I'm saying is that it's really, for me, I think depression, and I think about these little young boys running around here killing folks. You know, they have this thing about, you always, well, what's happening in the news, and you mentioned it at the opening of the conversation is, what about all these things that are happening? It all comes back to mental health. And why didn't somebody talk to Johnny? Why didn't the school counselor see? And I'm not saying we're going to catch every one of them. That's impossible, I'm sure. But who are we ignoring? And who are we not opening our hearts and our conversations to? And I think for me, mental health comes down to we need people. We need each other. I used to say, Ms. Lula, that I was a loner. I used to say that all the time because I'm an artist. I work alone a lot. I'm the baby of the family. I don't always feel that way, but I'm the baby of the family. And so I spend a lot of time by myself, and I'd be on the side of the house playing with my dolls and doing what I do, and using all of mama's ketchup and mustard, making my little stuff for the babies. But I remember all those hours I spent alone, but then it dawned on me that when depression comes, it reveals to you, you're really not a loner. You really are built for companionship. That's what I believe. And I think that when we allow people to come in and out of our world and we welcome them, even through just conversation, coworkers or whatever, then we're validating people. And I think a lot of times when we've lost someone, we have to remember what we still have. And I think for me, that's what I got from COVID is I realized what I still had. I looked at what remained and I said to myself, And I know the Lord put this in my heart, strengthen that which remains, strengthen what's still here. And that's friendships and those kind of things. But it's fear. We're so afraid. We're afraid of one another. We're afraid to start new friendships. We're afraid of coming out with whatever we're feeling. And it's not that we're so afraid, it's somebody taught us to be afraid because of hurt and because of betrayals and things like that. And so I think that we owe it to each other to heal one another in that way. And I guess that's just going to be my thing for the night. So you probably don't want to call on me no more because I'm a
No, you're fine, Gleisha. You're fine. I absolutely enjoyed everything that you said, and you're right. You know, even when we go and talk about our pastors, they're human. They're human. They have feelings just like we do. They go through depression just like we do. They may not tell us. They may talk about it, but yet we are all human beings. So we all go through some of the same things. I saw Lula had taken off her mute. And so I don't want to pass you by, Lula, if you wanted to speak on that subject before I continue to go on.
No, you can continue.
Okay. So, all right. I definitely agree with everything that you have said, Gleisha and Vera. And, you know, like I said in the beginning, when I started the conversation, we think about the things that are happening on the news. And you said, you know, Gleisha, where was that counselor? Well, let's go back a little further. Where was mom and dad? Where was mom and dad when little Johnny was out there doing things that Johnny or Sally shouldn't have been doing? Or maybe I don't know. Those are just generic names. All right. So no offense, Johnny and Sally. But, you know, where was mom? Why didn't mom see something was wrong? And maybe mom did. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, we have to find a place. We have to find a way to find help and to heal our mental state. And with that being said, we all want a healthy mental state, right? What can we do to make sure our mental state is healthy? What are the things that we can do? One of the things that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen is NAMI. Now, for you who don't know what NAMI is, it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And if you at any time are going through any type of mental crisis, that phone number is scrolling across the bottom. You can call that number or you can text to 741-741. There is help available. So let me ask you, in order to keep our mental state healthy, besides going and seeing someone to talk about it, what are some of the other things, other positive things that we might be able to do?
And that's such a good question, Vicki. And I can't express enough the importance of self-care. Sometimes we put ourselves in a place of depression because we're trying to do so much. We want, we just want to be involved in everything. We want to save the world. We want to make sure our kids are all right. It's just so much, but we never take time to take care of ourselves. Sometimes I have to talk to myself because I preach a good game, but I don't always practice what I preach. I educate constantly on self-care. I mean, I give you pages upon pages of information on taking care of yourself. It's so hard to parent. It's so hard to do all these other things if you're not taking care of yourself. Yet I will work 7 days a week and come home at night and go volunteer and go do this, never taking time to breathe or do something enjoyable for Vera. I'm setting myself up, and I know this, because I know what's down the line. Take time and do some things that you enjoy, whether it's reading a book, taking a walk, painting these pictures that's all over my house. I mean, do something that you enjoy. With kids, I always say I used to find time, and I would have to get up early before the kids would get up just to have some quiet time to read my book without Jordan sitting on my lap or doing things like that. So I had to find some time because I knew it was vital for my health, for my mental stability, that I took some time to breathe.
Absolutely.
You have to. It's so important. And if
Absolutely.
I can't say anything else today, take some time to make sure your mental is all right. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely. You know, that made me think, because I was in Miami a week ago, and I went down for a conference, but I went a day early because I just wanted that day to just be for me. I don't take enough of those days. I mean, if you guys know me, you know I'm always doing something. I'm always working somewhere, doing something for somebody else. But what about Vicky? And I decided to go down early because I wanted to sit by the pool, just me. I wanted to sit there. I wanted to get in the hot tub. I wanted to read a book. I wanted to listen to some music. I decided I'd go and get me one of those $1,000 massages. It didn't cost $1,000, but it felt like $1,000. But it was more expensive than what I normally pay. And at first, I was talking myself out of it. Nah, you don't need that. Wait till you get back to Saginaw. You can go and get one for $30. You don't need to pay that kind of money for a massage. And I thought, I never do things for me. I'm doing for everybody else all the time. Well, what about me? What about my mental state? I'm going to do it. I did it. Felt great. Felt great. I enjoyed that day. So you're right, Vera. We need to take time out for ourselves. It helps our mental state, right? Absolutely. So that was good. I enjoyed that. Go ahead, Gleisha.
I was going to say, as Black women, so many times we are taught to take care of everybody else but us, and that it's selfish to take that time. But I think it's more selfish to not take the time for you, because you run out, you have nothing else to pour out,
right?
And your babies aren't going to get anything from you. You know, it's not really fair to you to believe that, but we're taught that. We're taught that, to be strong and to be a good mama and to be this and that. And we think it's almost a bragging rights. Child, I did this and I did that. And so, and it's what we've done for so many years. We've learned it. It's been passed on. And I appreciate you, Vera, for saying that, because I'm an advocate for that. The self-care, go get your massage, do this, do that. We talk about each other when we pamper ourselves, and people will say little things. I have girlfriends that have people that come and clean their houses and this and that, but they're in business on a level that them cleaning and doing what another mom or woman might be able to do is different. So that there again, you know, not to judge that. Self-care is based on, it's relative. It's based on what you need. And only really you know that. But yeah, we've been taught not to do that. But I do think that it's more selfish to just keep on going until you burn out, until you run out. And then you're teaching your daughters especially, but you're teaching your kids that that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Child, if you haven't gone until you're about to pass out, you ain't done nothing. Yet, no, that's not true. The word no is self-care. Just the word no. And it's a complete sentence.
It is.
I don't owe you an explanation of why I can't do X, Y, and Z. And if I love you and care about you, I'll give you a little something. I'll say, well, you know, I got such to do, you know, and I just need a day. I may say that, but if I don't hold me to that, because no is a complete sentence, and no means I'm choosing me today. Now, what that means is that I'm going to get rejuvenated and restored and refreshed. And maybe next week I will be able to give more than I did or than you expected, because I found out, because you're not really loving people if you're not loving you. You can only love me as much as you've recognized that you love you. Otherwise, what are you loving me from? What do you need from me? Or how do I make you feel? Am I making you feel needed? And that's where your love is coming from? What's going on? So I think the mental health is to be, and I've heard this, the first time I heard this was from a wonderful counselor here in Saginaw. And I won't name names because, you know, somebody said, well, you should have said that person's name. You should say, I don't want to start calling names. But self-awareness is everything. And the first time I heard someone say that, I guess I just wasn't self-aware, because it opened my eyes. And from then on, I realized I do need that. I do have a love language. I do have something that makes me feel okay and whole and complete.
Absolutely.
And I don't owe an apology to anyone for that. And I think the more we give each other permission to recognize that and to act on that, the better. Because we run things anyway. We're the ones doing this and doing that. So if we're well, as they say, if mama happy, everybody's happy. If we're well and we're strengthened and we're restored and we feel good and we had that massage, our smiles are there, then the world's going to be a better place. Because there's so many of us out there trying to run it and do it all. But if we take care of us and we don't have to apologize for it, man, I think that's strength. That's empowerment. So for what it's, I piggyback off of Vera on that.
I love it.
Yeah, no more apologies.
That was good. I like that. And you're right. No is a complete sentence. If I say no, but you know what? Sometimes it's just so hard to say no. But I'm learning. I'm learning. So, all right. So now for the person that, or anyone who's looking on or who's listening to us talk about mental health tonight, we're talking about having a healthy mental state. And we're just talking about mental health and depression. And we're kind of tying it all in together. But I do want to let you know that if you happen to be going through any type of mental crisis, if you are going through any bouts of depression, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you seeking help. There is nothing wrong with that. Get the help that you need. On the screen is scrolling NAMI helpline 800-950-NAMI or text 741-741 and get the help that you need. Now, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because Women of Colors has partnered with Gleisha Wright Tatum. And Gleisha, if some of you who don't know her, she is a wonderful playwright. Wonderful. I've been through to several plays that she's done, and I have just been amazed at the work, at the writing. She even makes the costumes. Who does that? You know, people who can do that kind of thing. I can't sew, but you know what? Gleisha can. Gleisha has done an amazing job, and I've watched her work. I've actually been in a couple of things that she's done, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And Women of Colors has now partnered with her, and she's putting together a play right now. The name of her production is Evoke. Did I get that right? Evoke Productions. And we have partnered with her as she's putting together a play right now, which is called The Family Car. And you might think, well, what does the family car have to do with mental health? Oh, believe me, it's got a whole lot to do with mental health. So, Gleisha, unmute yourself and talk about The Family Car.
Well, first of all, thank you for those flowers. I appreciate them very much. I've always had a lot of help, so I can't take all of that, and the glory goes to God. I'm so appreciative for the gifts that He's given me, and I try to use them for Him and also for my community. And as everybody on this call does that, so I'm in good company. I want to say that the family car, I'll give you the gist of it. I don't want to give too much away. We've got some characters that you all need to come out and meet. But the family car is kind of symbolic. If you've ever lost someone, and I know we all have, there's that day, that time when you're at the house, you're getting ready, and you're preparing, and you're waiting for the family car to come. And we all together get in the car, and we go to the service, and we say our final goodbyes to our loved one. Before the family car gets there, there's so much that can and usually does happen. People are coming to the house. People are bringing dishes. People are doing, different things. There are relationships in the house that may be good, may not be. Grief and loss bring out so much. It can bring out humor. So we are going to laugh because laughter is like a medicine. But there are some things we want to unpack in the play, The Family Car, that hopefully will touch a lot of different areas of what grief is and how it looks, and then also provide not only those truths, but healing, a way through grief to where we are able to function and have good, positive mental health. But in the meantime, again, we have a few shenanigans, I will admit. We're going to have some fun. We got to have some fun. But not in a way that does not adequately address what's going on. So I'd like to say that partnering with Women of Colors, Evoke Productions is a Black theater company that God gave me. Earthen Vessels of Color is what it stands for. And I know that it's been on my heart for years. And to finally be doing it, we have a training session going right now with SVSU and training Black actors, and hoping some of those folks will be willing and hope and to audition for the cast of this production, which comes out next year. But what I'd like to say is that our community is grieving and hurting. Many communities are. And when you can come together and address these type of issues with a group like Women of Colors, Evelyn, Vicky, I know there are a lot of other people, Miss Lula, you're a part of it. There's so many people But just sitting on the phone talking to Evelyn and Vicky, for this thing to unfold the way it did was so beautiful. Evelyn was doing, in just a few words, what we've been talking about on the call tonight. It wasn't about her. She was saying to me, this has to happen, and what can we do to help make sure it happens? And Vicky has been in my corner since forever. and I'm very thankful. But what I would like to see happen with this production for Saginaw is that we come together as a family. Is that too much to expect? I really believe we can do that. Because one thing I've noticed about grief and suffering is that it connects us. Suffering is what I think brings us together. Yeah, it'll make us almost want to, pull each other's hair out one minute, but ultimately, I think suffering is what brings us together. And I'm hoping that cultures, all types of cultures, will come to see the family car. There's been a loss in the family. Our main character is the mom, and there's some things that she has to do. There will be some special effects. There will be some dancing. There will be some full stage dancing, and there'll be an opportunity for those of you who want to wave your hand and get that out, that you'll have a chance to do that. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity to really think through what you've experienced and where you are now, and where we are in our mental health. Not only that, but we're writing a play based on real stories, based on real interviews, based on real feedback from folks who have been through the mental health system, whether they received help or didn't, how they feel about that, the lack of counselors of color, different ways that they grieved and coped, that some were addictions and different things. But these are real stories. These are from real people. They will remain anonymous. I have no idea who they are my own self until I interview a few other folks. I won't even have names, which is fine. But in sitting down, listening, I think when you listen to a community, then you have an opportunity to create something that will heal that community, that will touch that community, because it comes from them. So I just want to take what I'm getting from the community, write it according to their stories, and then deliver it back to them to say, this is your story. And I hope that I've done something with it that would help you see a good outcome, a healing opportunity. So that's pretty much the family car in a nutshell. But it's a real story. So we're excited. And it's, I guess our tagline right now, we may change it, is it's okay to talk about it.
I like that. So we have this to look forward to, the family car. And as I said, Gleisha is an amazing playwright. So anybody who comes out to see this, you will be very, very happy that you did. Thank you, Gleisha. I appreciate that. So I thank you, ladies, for talking with me tonight on mental health awareness, and also talking a little bit about depression as well. Now, Women of Colors, just to give you people who are looking on at us right now or who are listening, Women of Colors has been in existence for almost 30 years. Next year will be our 30-year anniversary. And on this panel, besides me, Vera, Lula is our oldest member. She's been with Women of Colors for 20 years or more. So 30 years next year will be our anniversary, and we're planning on a very nice celebration. So I'm hoping that you all can be a part of it. But Women of Colors mentors the youth, empower women. We've taken on this real life of forums, and we have done a lot in the last couple of years, different forums. We have How I Overcame, which is a panel of women who talk about their struggles and how they made it through those struggles. Then we flipped the script and we did I'm Still a Man, because, men are taught to be strong and they can't cry, they can't show emotions. Well, they have those things. They have emotions. They have stories as well. They have struggles. And so they're allowed to tell their struggles and how they got through those struggles. And here we are with a time to have a conversation. We talk about a lot of the hard things. We hit places like sex trafficking, domestic violence. We haven't done so much on the political side. We talked about suicide. We are hitting all kinds of subjects. So we are having those tough conversations, and we're enjoying all of the different guests that we bring on the panels who are giving us knowledge and insight on all of these different things. So women of colors, as women of colors, we are loving our community from the inside out. And as you can see, our president has joined in, Miss Evelyn McGovern, and I'm going to turn it right on over to her. Ladies, thank you so much for such a great job tonight, for talking with me. I enjoyed you sitting down at our little table talk and having conversation.
Well, hello everyone, and I just want to thank all of our panelists this evening. You were awesome. I mean, and the courage you have to tell your personal stories and just share your experiences is priceless. And I want to thank all of the viewers that are listening, the past and the present, the new viewers. I hope you've got something this evening from what you've heard. Um, I mean, what does it serve to keep all of this information in and not share it? I mean, you're just pressing it down and it's just getting deeper and deeper. And what does that do? It hurts you. It hurts you. And it ultimately may hurt your family. And so I know I'm tired of hurting. I know you ladies are tired of hurting. And it's time to release and have peace and enjoy life. That's what time it is. And I want to thank our board. I want to thank our members and our staff. And I just, it's our committee. We have a community forum committee that help plan these events. I just want to thank everyone because this was very enlightening and powerful. And I just can't wait till next month or the next event we have. And Vicky, you know, you're the best host I've ever known. Thank you for all you do for the organization. It's great. So I wanted to share too also um, next month's event that we're having. Our forum is going for time to have a conversation. Hope we have a flyer, yes, and we will have our own Miss Vicky Hill as well as Lula Woodard and myself. We have written a book, and we are new authors, and the book is called "The Mother You Know," and Sandra is my sister, Sandra Wooten, and Marcia Reeves, one of our own community, uh, wonderful woman. And so I'm looking forward to us talking about our mothers and our experiences growing up. You think a lot of you think you know us, but you really will know us when you hear our stories and how we grew up and our experiences. I'm looking forward to that as well. And I just hope everyone enjoyed this time to have a conversation. And I hope we keep having these conversations because they're needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. So once again, I want to thank all the ladies that are on the panel tonight. Thank you for being so cooperative and talking with me tonight and sharing your personal stories and all of the different things that I touched on tonight. And as Evelyn said, join us again on next month. We do a forum every single month. So next month, we're going to be talking about the mother you know. Join in on that conversation. Everybody has something about their mother that they remember, can relate to. And anything that we say next month, you'll be able to relate to it. You know, you will be able to relate in some way. So I thank you again tonight for tonight's session. Time to have a conversation. And I thank all of the listeners, all of the viewers. Thank you so very much. Share this. This is going to be on our Facebook page for a little while. It will stay on the radio station's Facebook pages, which is KISS 107, WSGW 106.3, and the Moose. All right. So share this with somebody else. You can still go back and watch this. You can also go to Women of Color's TV network. Yeah, we have a TV network. We have Roku TV, Amazon, and Apple TV. All of our past forums are already up on those networks. You can go back and you can view any of those that we had. All right. And this one will go up really soon as well. So check out that. Or you can go to womenofcolors.org. Click the button up there. It's going to take you right into those forums. So you don't even have to have those different networks. Just go to our Facebook, our webpage, womenofcolors.org. All right. And you can hit that button up there and it'll take you right into all of the other forums. So once again, I thank you all and have a great night.